Moving on, I think we had culminated last session with the karma destiny and his will, our will. Somewhere we moved along, holding our hands together to understand how the whole dynamic works, and as beautifully explained by Swami. Now this week we have decided, as we send the topic, I've tried to do something because yesterday we were in the overnight seva, and we could manage to get few thoughts on this. I'm sure we'll all have something to pitch in as and when. And we have Brother Nagesh also joining in. 29th August. By the way, today is my niece's birthday also. So all of your prayers and blessings and Swami's blessings for her. She normally joins from Canada on these satsang sessions. So bi-weekly Sunday Sai vaccine. It's important for us. It reminds us to tune in to the source that we all have come from, and by tuning in, what we want to do is we want to resonate at the same frequency. We want to vibrate at a higher frequency. I was just talking to Brother Shastri on vibration and how important it is that the vibration has to be raised. If the world has to become a better place, we have to start vibrating at the highest frequency. So satsang helps us to communicate with God, helps us to establish and restore the channel that we might have lost in the weeks din, in the preceding weeks. It helps us to reconnect, reroute, right? It's like a GPS, guru positioning, God positioning system, where there are uncertain turns and bends which it comes, and this GPS helps us to guide and reconnect back into it. It's very important, brothers and sisters, when we see things around, it's very important to understand that we have to keep digging at one place, not like a person who digs at 10 places, for getting water 10 meters and he doesn't get anywhere, rather than digging at one place with 100 meters. And that one concerted effort is extremely important, as you can see in these images. Again, I am reminded of Bruce Lee, the famous karate expert. He said that I'm not worried about a person who knows 10,000 kicks, but I'm worried about the person who knows one kick but has practiced 10,000 times. This is what is in his own words. So what does it say? It says that continuous perseverance and hammering of the same name, same form, getting into it, embedding it into our being, and that is important. Meditate one naam, one form, एक नाम, एक इष्टा, एक मंत्र, एक रूप, एक आस्था, एक जप, एक भगवान, एक सत्य साई. There has to be complete fidelity, correct? Complete loyalty with that one name that we want to stick on and move on. And that is important. Because when he turns his registers, our name he should find in the list, in his preferred list, right? Just as we think that we find our names. Normally, it's very conveniently we have put this whole gambit of devotion, God, bhakti, or so-called, any of our heroes or of our idols into such a pedestal that they are there and we are here and we can't reach there. It's convenience more than conviction. You know why? Because by placing there, we know that we can't reach them. And they beautifully said, when I heard one of the talks, it's not Radio Sai, but some other talks where it said that, people have conveniently made the roads, named the roads after Mahatma Gandhi, after Vivekananda, after, Saint Devraha Baba or Abdul Kalam. Why? You have made the roads to name, but you can't walk on the roads and the prints that they have left behind. So we felt it's easier to name them rather than follow them. What is important is to follow, right? So this is what satsang tries to re-anchor us, realign us, recalibrate us, and bring us to the mean position where we can again join the dots, which has been left in the preceding weeks due to some engagements we had. A powerful reminder which all of us have been attuned to. When you wake up, feel that you are entering the stage to play the role assigned to you by the Lord. Pray that you may act it well. Pray. Everywhere there is a pray, brothers. Why? Because we have to take out the doership. We have to pray that he works through us. Then he says to earn his approbation, that he's happy about it. At night when you retire, feel that you are entering the green room, but with the costume of the roll on. Perhaps the role is not over. You know what? Perhaps now, brother and sister, we are all witnessing tremendously painful, grieving scenario in one of our, fellow planet countries, Afghanistan. Correct. This world perhaps befittingly fits and says that overnight the fortune of millions changed. How powerful is this thought for the day? And it's not there. It can happen to any country, any place, anywhere, the moment we are off the hook. And it's important we remain anchored. So perhaps the role is not yet over and you have not yet been permitted. Perhaps you have to make another entrance the next day. We don't know, because every day is like you are entering the womb of death, and when you get up, you are again coming out womb of sleep. So it's important for us to understand that the whole part of switch on and switch off in the night and the morning is in the divine hands, because you have no control from 10 p.m., 11 p.m., whatever time you sleep till the time you get up, because your conscious mind is not knowing, you're not consciously doing anything. And then Swami says he knows, he has written the play, he knows how it will go on, it will end. Yours is but to act and retire. Now, very important, pertinent parts here is talking about the karma. All is God's work. When you look at those, purple marks, pray that you may act it well, earn his approbation. Live in the present. That means just do in present. Bhagavan said the past is already gone. The future is already unpredictable. What is in our hands is the present, because the present is the seed of the past and the present is the seed of the future. Right? Present has become past. So it's very important we understand to live in that omnipresent, which can decide and define the future to come. Do not worry about that. Again, now he puts that command. Do not worry. When do you not worry? When a child does not worry, when the mother is around, right? That means the faith. Even though it's wandering around, it knows. Just turns back, looks a bit, so sees the mother and moves on and plays around. That faith is important, and we have spoken enough about the faith. And sadly, we have just spoken and we have not implemented, I think, to the extent that it should be. Because if the faith is not strong and good and God, deep and wide and dense, Sharanagati doesn't come in. We will see in this particular letter. Then he knows he has written the play. Now again, we are talking about destiny. The whole thing is a master plan, right? And yours is but to act and retire. Again, a very, very profound reassurance for us to understand Nishkama Karma. It's easy to say and to follow, but brothers, we have to keep hammering it. Nishkama Karma is not akarma. That means not inaction. Nishkama Karma is you do it. Like the children, they prepare for the exam, they do the best, and then the results, whatever come, accept it as a prasad, right? And don't do it because you are going to excel. Do it because you are supposed to, as a duty or a dharma of a student for the exam, to do well to the best of your abilities, right? The first step of this bedrock of surrender starts with deep interest, self-effort, which leads into a positive attitude. It's very important in this calamities, in the time, drowning time that we see around, we remain positive, brothers and sisters. And then that leads to a degree of faith which sets into us. And that faith has to be again watered and nurtured with a lot of belief, lot of affirmations that we have. Yes, I can do it. Yes, Swami will do it for me. These kind of things are very important self-affirmations. Once that faith sets in, you come into an understanding, you start looking at bigger picture. Oh, why did my dad scold? Or why did my mother do this? Or why did the teacher scold me? You start understanding it because you start believing, right? The trainers for the Olympians, you can see how harsh they are. PV Sindhu, the badminton champion from India, she was saying in the interview she was not allowed ice cream for 6 months. No phones for 6 months. Can you believe it in this world, in this age? No phone contact or using the phone for 6 months, brothers and sisters. The only thing was landline, without SMS, without all that. So why? Because then she had faith in the coach. She started looking, oh, he's doing it for this reason. And when you start doing that, when you start looking at the bigger picture, your acceptance of the scenarios and the developments in your life, you start accepting it very positively. And when you do that, you're slowly creeping into subconsciously and consciously into a state of Saranagati. It's a very, very important spiritual maturity ladder, as I reckon it, this particular triangle to be. All right. So moving on, Very important information here in chapter 2, verse 13 from Bhagavad Gita. It says that as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth, like, we have changed from the time we were born. We are not the same. You compare the photographs, you can know about it. Then why are we so deterrent? Why are we so resisting to the change that is going to happen in the name of death? And that's what this sloka says. It says, from boyhood to youth to old age to soul passes into another body similarly at the point of death. There's no doubt, right? Jiva transmigrates from one body to another based on the karmic performed deeds, reactions, and very important, look at this, unfulfilled desires. This migration is called incarnation. So it is a nature's law. It is the rules that has been made by the Lord, by the Creator, who when He came, He also followed the same rules. He came for a certain period of time, left the body, and went off, saying that yes, death is inevitable, an inseparable part of birth. All right. So the whole topic that we tried to flash yesterday was basically it is inevitable, right? Something which is inevitable. My grandfather used to say, uh, um, uh, uh, what cannot be cured must be endured. How best we can endure it, how we can face this particular thing called death, or how can we prepare. Let's see to what Bhagavan says. You must live in constant thought of God as well as another fact, death. This is Swami discourse in 1963. The body is in the car in which you are riding fast to destination. If you are not careful with your driving, you may encounter death in an accident. Some lorry can cause it. Hence, never forget two facts. Death is sure event, and your time is running out with every passing moment. When you remember this, you will remember never tempted to waste time in idle pursuit, because you have little time and you know the journey, you know the destination. So do not greedily try to overtake others or compete in speed. Know the limitations of the vehicle. Then you will not meet with an accident. Your journey will be happy journey, right? We all have come with a return ticket. Bhagwan says, we all have come. Holding it in grasp, he earns, spends, rises, falls, sings, dances, weeps, and wails, forgetting the end of the journey. We get so embroiled in it. In fact, there was one person who died, and then he went and protested. Why did you die? You didn't even tell me. You didn't even warn me. The Lord said, okay, so be it, no worries, we will warn you when so that you are aware that your death is imminent. And then he goes back, he starts enjoying again, forgets about it. As we all know, you might have seen that in the Bible where the stories are mentioned where Jesus cured a blind man of blindness. This guy, the moment he got sight, he got into sensual pleasures, he got into drinking and all that. So this is what we do when we get a boon, we make it a curse very fast. So particularly in this case, so he rises, falls, sings, dances, weeps, wails. So when he was given this man boon who died and said, okay, you can go and live again, we'll give you the indications. Again, within 1 year or so, he again died. So he went, he protested again, because people have the inherent habit of protesting down, so they will protest as up as well. So now why you're protesting? Because you never told me that there are signals that I should be alert. But we gave you signals, God said. No, but where were the signals? I didn't hear anything. I didn't see in the television screen or my email anything coming up that your death is imminent. But then God starts to explain. Don't you remember that when you started using dentures, your teeth started dropping? There is something which is imminent going to come. There are some changes. Okay, you forgot that. But don't you remember your hair, which used to be black, started turning gray? Oh, that is an indication. Yeah. And don't you remember when you look at your skin, you start seeing the folds and the skin getting that when you are getting old. And these were the indications. So the important thing for us is things are happening. There are indications. We know that this is the final destination, but still we want to remain oblivious of it, and that's not done. Bhagavan says birth and death are two high cliffs in between the life hangs, in between which the life of the river flows. Yeah, it happens to the body. Death happens to the body, which is associated. The delusion that the body is the core, body is real, and that verily is the death. So very important for us to understand what Swami says about that, this is a fact of life, this is a truth of life. It has to come as the birth comes. Now, before that happens, the very purpose of the human life is to rekindle the divinity, and that's why the whole organization, whether you do seva, whether you do your duty as a mother or father or sister or brother, do to the best of their ability so that you can someday rekindle this divinity within you, Divyatma Supraram, by intuition, by meditation, by seva, by namasmarana. But there are certain challenges, right? We all spoke about how these challenges, desire, why you have desire, because you've got attachment. Why you have attachment is because ego. Why is ego? Because a sense of connecting the lower I with yourself and to all the aspects of life that circumvents around you. And these are the vargas that we spoke about. So man is born with a package, hardware and software. Hardware is the body that you get, and software is basically a lot of like Windows, which is pre-installed. That is your prarabdha karma, your sanchit karma, and your impulses at the time of death, and all those things that decides. And there are certain apps which you can download as you travel in this journey. We tend to download these apps of satsang, namasmarana, seva, or we get into the other part, we get into bar rather than a darbar. This is our choice, and that is important, which is going to decide whether we reach the destination. Now we speak about closing of balance. We are talking about the bank balance that Swami gave the discourse, I think in 1960, somewhere in 1968, where Singapore devotees also gave a drama. So he says that closing an account, we must make all effort to achieve self-realization and release from this cycle of birth and death, right? And that is only the true closing of account. If suppose you move from one city to another and the bank account you don't close, you accrue certain charges. Why? Because you have not closed it properly, or there are certain outstandings in your credit card, right? So it's very important for us to close the account so that we don't get chased by it. And then there was a beautiful example which I saw. If you wish to hang a portrait on the walls of heaven, it's how beautifully Swami says, it must be attractive. Your stance, your pose, your smile must be nice. Should it be? It is best to be ready for the click night and day, with the name tipping on the tongue and the glory always radiant in the mind. And then it's like when you go to the studio, want to take a photograph, how nicely we all get deck up and say that, okay, now we are ready to be taken photograph. But sadly, brothers and sisters, when the life snap comes in, when the end moment comes in, that is without any notice. That means there is nobody to stand with the camera and say, smile please, so that your beautiful photo comes in the end. It's how you have lived, how you have been prepared, how you are readied yourself throughout the life. Correct? And that is what is important. What Bhagavan says, if you want your portrait in the heaven to look nice, you must be ready all the time with all the aspects that he has played. And then he says, it is no mean an achievement to get the name of the Lord on one's tongue in the last moment. Do you think it's so simple, straightforward, and easy to get that in the last moment? It needs practice of many years based on deep-seated faith. It needs a strong character without hatred or malice for thought of God, and cannot survive in climate of pride and greed. Again, Urge the Vargas is talking about. So if you want our photographs to be beautiful at the departure, we need to live all throughout with the makeup. Makeup is what you remember Swami said, makeup, your hand is a charity, your bangles should be the bangles of charity, and your lips should be lips for namasmarana. Bindi should be the meditation, the eyebrows, in between the eyebrows we think. So these are the basically the making up that we should do. Yama, the god of death, does not give a notice of arrival. Swami says he's the man with the camera ready to take snaps. He does not want ready, I'm clicking. And then I was listening to beautiful one of the satsang, online, and there it says that Yama once was visiting Narayana, the Lord, and in Vaikuntha, and as he was entering that premises, he saw one bird outside, okay, on a tree. And Yama glanced at the bird, smiled, and he went inside. Now Garuda, who was watching all this, Garuda knew that the moment the Yama has looked into the bird, there is something going to happen to the bird. All right. So what did Garuda do? It knew that Yama is going to come back within some time. So he picked up the bird, and Garuda was recorded as to be the fastest, in speed. So went into a Dandikarna, some forest, where it put the bird and came back. right? And as Yama finished the meeting with Narayana, he went and said, Narayana said, "What brings you here is, Lord, the time has come for this particular bird, and I can see it's right at your doorstep. So I'm thinking, how will that destiny part meet up?" And Lord Narayana said, "Don't worry, everything will go as per plan." And then when he comes out, he doesn't see the bird, and he asks Garuda. Garuda says that uh, I knew that by your smile there was something, so I had left the bird in that forest. And Yama smiles and says, "Well, you don't know that the forest has got a very huge raging fire." The meaning of this story, or this part, what I heard was, it's so important that when the time comes, when the destiny strikes, it has to happen. What has to happen will happen. It's whether we have that acceptability, the belief that yes, in this world, in the next world, Bhagwan will remain, because we want to hold on with that 100% 24 karat faith, and that is what matters and makes the difference. Beautifully, five essence of from Bhagavad Gita teachings, where Bhagavan says the first is yoga karma sukausalam. Whatever we are doing, the karmas that we try to do, let's do it in the best of our abilities, with perfection, with full dedication, with no doership, right? And then it becomes a karma yoga, right? So karma, you see, karma becomes kama when R is missing. What is that? R is Rama, that is God essence. When it is missing, it becomes kama, right? And when you add the God essence to kama, that means your desires, you put God first, that is your desire, the kama becomes karma. So it's very important. This particular first one tells us that. The second one is samatvam yoga muchyate, the balance of the mind. We have been all talking about bend the body, mend the senses, and the mind. It's very, very important to understand this. The third one, Bhagavan says, karma yeva karmanyavadikaraste ma phalestu kada. You again have the right to act. We were talking about nishkama karma, sense of doership. You have the right to act, but none whatsoever to expect the result. This is another part. So these are five bullet points, which is very nicely placed, which tells us the essence what we must first hold on to, right? Sometimes you might get worried into hundreds of slokas. So these are the some of the essence. The fourth is sarva karma bhagavat prityartham. That means you do the karma, earn his approbation. You saw the first slide. That means my Lord should be happy when I do this, not I or the photographers or the devotees listening to my bhajan or what you sang. You must feel God must be happy, the one to whom you're offering, and you are seeing Him in everyone and offering to everyone. Then it is different. All right. So it's very important to please God. And the fifth and last one is nimitta matram bhava savichi. By this Lord, Savyasachi, by this Lord intends to tell Arjuna that he's merely an instrument in the hands. He who acts through us, having this humility, awareness, understanding what is termed as Karma Yoga. So these are important. Now we're trying to close in. Understand that yes, this journey is important. End is there. Definitely it is there for different people. Some people it came very early in the COVID scenarios, as we've seen, unfortunately, and now what we see the turmoil. But it is definitely there. We are all with a return ticket, right? Yeah, I think we spoke about this karma and kama thing. Very important. We must keep in mind whenever we are doing your karma becomes a karma yoga as long as you put the essence Rama in it. That means everything is dedicated to God, right? The other part, how we can ensure that this part of closing of the balance happens in the right way, is try to consciously be aware about the vrittiyas, the tendencies which comes up, surfaces every now and then like a serpent in every facet, whether it is vision, whether it is shravanam, whether it is thinking, manas, all these things we have to keep watching, whether it is food, non-vegetarian food, or definitely Bhagwan says patra shuddhi, pak shuddhi, and padartha shuddhi. This is very important. All the three must be the one who cooks the container in which it is cooked, and the food items itself. It's very important, because jaisa ann vaisa man, as is the food, that is mine. So purity, we have to keep this radar on, to keep scanning our being. Oh, we entered into the impure zone. We thought this incorrectly, impurely. We in the office, oh, I thought about that employee wrongly. I sent an email which was wrong. It's very important to do this self audit on a continuous basis, right? That will lead us to leading into this. And watch, it's a topic in itself, brothers and sisters. It's a fantastic thing what Bhagwan has given. Just look at the what. Watch your words, watch your actions, watch your thoughts, watch your character, watch your heart. Everything is there. The whole destiny package is in this word called watch, right? So again, these are the important facets which will help us to lead our life in a way so that the end can be defined, which is just a seamless carryover into the lap of Bhagwan. The eternal journey, the eternal bond continues, right? So I've tried to put up a few things which is important for us to understand. Nama Smarana again. In Kali Yuga, Bhagavan says, there are many snakes of wicked qualities in the anthill of your heart. When you loudly sing the name of the Lord, all the snakes will come out. Nama Smarana should be the very breath of life. We must repeat God's name in order to get rid of the evil qualities. There are many who do not attach importance to chanting of the name. This is a great mistake. Chanting of the divine name can redeem your life. There is no other refuge. That's the power of Nama Smarana, brothers and sisters. Let's continue. It doesn't mean whether you can sing or not. It means whether you are in constant remembrance and listening and singing, talking, sharing His glory, His Mahima all the time. And that is important. Remember the word Smarana. Smarana is remembrance. And the word Smarana has got Marana. Marana means death. So it has got a lot of significance because when you are in that stage of going off, switching off, the only thing you can do is Smarana. The only thing, because Shravana means you have to depend on somebody. But remembrance is the only thing we can do effectively at the time when we are completely dilapidated, incapacitated, or in whatever state of being we are in when our departure is near. So Smarana, that is the word Marana has been added to as Smarana. That means at that time. All right. Let's move on. I think somewhere. Okay. I don't know why, but anyway. Okay. The other part which we have to always remember is highest part of the human goal is paropkartham vahanti nadyah, paropkartham falanti vrikshah, paropkartham duhanti gavah. That means the cow always selflessly gives milk. The vriksh, the tree always gives us the fruits, and the rivers always give us the water selflessly without any condition, no TC attached. And then after this Parupkartha Duhanti Gava, Bhagwan says, Parupkarthartha idam shariram. That is our human form has been given for doing this selfless service, brothers and sisters. So Namasmarana, Seva, inquiry of doership, giving up our doership from me who is participant and God is a witness to he who is participant and we become the witness, from ego, from I to him. This another very important. Then only we can come to the Nishkam Bhav. Why? Because we have offered all the actions to him. We have to practice consciously on this. That's where Saranagati will step in. So this is where we have to come, and once we do, we are possibly closer to something. I saw this beautiful song today in one of the Seva groups, and I couldn't resist. I tried frantically to download. I managed to. Let's enjoy this, brothers and sisters. It's a ghazal, but you will love to see the interpretation down.
आपकी नजरों ने समझा प्यार के काबिल मुझे, दिल की ये धड़कन ठहर जा, मिल गई मंजिल मुझे, आपकी नजरों ने समझा. जी हमें फैसला कह रही है हर नजर, बंदा परवर शुक्रिया दो जहां की आज खुशियाँ हो गई हासिल मुझे, आपकी नजरों ने समझा। आपकी मंजिल हूँ मैं, मेरी मंजिल आप है। आपकी मंजिल हूँ मैं, मेरी मंजिल आप है। क्यों मैं तूफान से डरूं, मेरा साहिल आप है। कोई तूफानों से कह दे मिल गया साहिल मुझे, आपकी नजरों ने समझा प्यार के काबिल मुझे, आपकी नजरों ने समझा।
That was a beautiful. It's a Hindi song, but you know it's about a guy and his beloved. And then he finally she falls in love. Just put all these Bollywood songs, Hame Tumse Pyar Kitna, all these songs. When you put Swami in the pedestal and just go into that visualization, it's so beautiful, brothers and sisters. What this song says that I was always loving you, but today your sight is also telling me that you love me, and that is the consummation of the spiritual journey. It cannot be one way; it has to be two-way, right? And that brings us closer to how we can control and exit from this planet. So with that, I think I will try to stop here, though I have a few more slides onto that. We can always continue because possibly brother Nagesh is there. Brother Nagesh, are you there? Sairam, brother Nagesh. Okay, maybe let me just give me 1 minute. I'll just check whether he had some problem in getting into this satsang group. Okay, maybe. Never mind. Then I'll prefer to continue. So we can have him in the next week if that is the case. So the beautiful essence of this song, brothers and sisters, and this came into one of the seva groups. So I think it is made very pertinent because our journey gets completed. Not complicated. Complicated is just opposite because right now it is complicated. It gets completed. You know, mohabbat mukammal hota hai. Your love gets consummated only when Lord also puts His eyes on you, locks it. Not only puts it fleeting eyes, no, locks it on you, and then says, "Okay, you are mine." Out of this, He's done with so many. In fact, there is one Dubai devotee. There was a devotee, I think, in Bahrain. Yeah, Nandeshwar. Okay, he was a great harmonium player, and he used to go to center there. But the rules there was that unless you are 3 months in the center, you will not sing or play because that's a rule they had for everyone. So fine, fair enough. But this guy was so enamored, I mean, so engrossed in playing and doing Namasmarana through that, it couldn't stop him. So he started going to family bhajans. He was doing it. After a few months of stay in one of the family bhajans, he sat there. Uh, he did not have the token to do the bhajan that day. Okay, but he was playing harmonium. He had gone there to play. And what happened? Suddenly there was an impulse in him, and he came out with. Paritishwari Jagat Janani. That bhajan he sang. And he sang so beautifully, brothers and sisters. What I read in that blog, Brother Arvind's blog, is everybody was crying and they felt, why is he not singing more? We want him to sing more. This was going on. But then he had to give the Shruti for the next bhajan, right? Because he was a harmonium player. And as people are looking that the next bhajan Shruti is going to give, the last key that he played on Partishwari Jagat Janani, it ended there, brothers and sisters, right? And that particular harmonium key was just continuously, it's playing on, and then the devotees started looking around. They saw Brother Nandeshwar is with his head on the harmonium. There is no breath. He breathed his last with his head on the harmonium, singing Partishwari Jagat Janani. This is extremely important for us to understand. We all will leave, but how we lived and how we will decide how we leave, and how we leave will decide how we are going to come back next time, with what kind of baggages. And that is why we must be aware about what we are trying to share in this particular session. Okay, chapter 8 verse 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, it clearly says, yam yam vapi smaranam bhavam tyajati ante kale varam tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava vitaha. What Lord Krishna says in this is, whoever at the end leaves the body thinking of any being, to that being only he goes, O Kaunteya, because of his constant thought of that being. So what he's putting across is, our thought at the time of departure attaches us to the next lifetime, into that precincts, that soul, and the connectivity of that soul. So we can look into the importance of our thoughts that we started with. Yad bhavam tad bhavati. Not only during life, also when the life is about to end. As you sow, so shall you reap. Okay, sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a tendency. Sow a tendency, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. And that's how the cycle keeps coming and going on, brothers and sisters. So if you think about this revenge, if you think about craving, jealousy about that man who was this, whatever we think at that point of time, and if we think about our family members, if we think about a strong friend, or we think good or bad, everything carries away with the sukshma part of that mind, with the subtle part of that manasa, with its chitta. Chitta is the reservoir of all these thoughts and the unfulfilled desires. It get packaged, reloads you with a new software when you come in with this part of operating system. So we have to be careful, and we have to train our mind. It's not only careful, brothers and sisters, we have to train our mind. So this particular sloka says, what we think that time will become. Now let's look into this particular sloka, okay, which is chapter 8 S10. There have been after the three slokas, the 10th one, it says, I will try to recite. God forgive me for the mispronunciations. Prayana kale manas chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva भ्रुवोर मध्ये प्राणाम अवश्य सम्यक सातम param purusham upaiti divyam. At the hour of death, he who dies remembering me, having relinquished the body, reaches my state of being. In this matter, there should be no doubt about it. How important it is for us to live the life, and also when we leave, to think and think of him alone, brothers and sisters. This tells us, otherwise come back again as a child, put in diapers, running around, falling, getting up, getting this beating, getting to school, getting again desires, again a cocoon of desires, web it, and again come back again. Do we want to keep doing that? Choice is ours, his will or my will. Keep thinking about it. It really makes sense to come out of it, brothers and sisters. And he will help us. He has given all these guidelines. These are all standard operating procedures, so he's given to us. All right. And on the surface, Bhagwan says that appears to be simple, but the catch lies in the fact that unless one has thought about God entire life, he will not be able to. There was a guy who had 4 sons who had read this particular satsanga. He had gone to some Maharaj, and the Maharaj had said this one. So what he did, he said, by at the time of death, I must remember. So he named his sons Vitthal, Panduranga, Rama, Krishna. All the four sons. Now he knows, he's assured that when his end comes, he'd say, hey Vithala, hey Panduranga. Somebody he'll call, right? Because you remember your own family members at the time, right? So this guy, when the end came, he was in the hospital ICU, and then he had to speak last, for a few moments to his family. He said to his wife, where is Vithala? Vithala, Papa, I'm here. Panduranga, I'm here. Where is Rama? I'm here. Where is Krishna? Krishna was also there, his son. And then this guy says, if all of you are here, who is at the shop? Who is at my provision store? Who is taking care of it? So look at his thought. Thought was not to remember God's name. Thought was to fool around and get into that cycle. It doesn't work, brothers and sisters. If people have not lived the life that way, the exit is definitely going to be mundane, coming back into the same circus again and again, right? So it's important that we think. And here, uh, there is a photograph which I think has got submerged with this, but there's a Lord Bhishma on the bed of arrows. Lord Krishna appeared at the deathbed of Bhishma because Bhishma was a great unalloyed devotee, right? That we all know. He always knew that though he's siding with Adharma, he knew that Dharma, God had Dharma, Pandavas had God with them. So definitely victory was going to be theirs. But somehow he just could not get into this side. Again, you can call destiny, or his thought process was conditioned because of Krishna was standing before Bhishma at the time of death. No general philosopher in the history of the rise or fall of mundane empires were ever blessed in this way to have God appeared with him. He waited 6 months for Uttarayana because Bhishma had this boon of choosing the time to die. That was his boon. All right. So there was the Lord who was standing in front of him. You're looking at the Lord, you're thinking at the Lord, and you're talking to the Lord. What a way to live, right? And this is not because of that moment that he could earn that. It's because he had this firm faith that Krishna is God. Due to whatever reasons he had to play this part of the drama, which Bhagavan says is a master plan, he had to side with Duryodhana at that point of time, helplessly though. Right? So important part is we have to consciously live in his presence to understand the essence of this particular truth. Heart, head and hand have to work in unison, correct? It's very important. You can't give, all the three have to pass. There was a beautiful example given in one of the talks which says that if suppose you are in 12th standard and you've taken science, you got to pass in physics, chem and maths, physics, chem and bio, right? You can't have 50% in physics, 30% in science, or 35% because 35 is a passing mark, some of the institutions, and 15% in chemistry. Will you get a pass marks? No, we don't get a pass marks in that case, even though we have done fantastic in physics. So each one of them is important to go achieve mind. That's what Bhagavan says in that particular one. Sharing what I heard is, it's so important that we get karma, bhakti, seva, heart, head and hand. All of them must be more or less equally proportional so that we pass in all of them. We unite them, Trikant Shuddhi, and then we get into the result which is dictated as pass. And most of the time we don't pass, brothers and sisters, because we may be doing seva. We may be doing bhajan, no doubt about it. We get 40% on that. But the power, the intent, the presence, the doership, that aspects we get only 10%, 15%. And that is why we don't pass in the exam. That is why Professor Kasturi, when he asked Swami that what happens after death, Swami said, this is what happens. And we gave supplementary exams, so we came back again and again, right? So we have to focus on living than leaving. Once you focus on living, the leaving automatically is taken care of. Swami Vivekananda says, don't depend on death to liberate you from the imperfections. You are exactly the same after death as you were before. Nothing changes. You only give a body. If you are a thief or a liar or a cheater, you don't become an angel immediately upon dying. He's saying that if that is the case, let's all jump into the well. If death gives us a certificate to become a better individual or a person, let's all jump into the well and our lives to become angels. And then he says, whatever you have made yourself thus far, you will be thereafter. And when you reincarnate, you'll bring the same nature. To change, you have to make a conscious effort. This world, this birth, this janma that we have, jantu nam narma janma dil durlabam. This is what we have, is priceless. This is the time we can make the difference, brothers and sisters. All right. Um, Let me see. Yeah, there are a few more things pertinent to it, but Nagesh, you are there? Not yet. Huh? Okay. The Shastri, should I continue another 15 minutes, or we can end up with the one of the 108 names, Mahatma? It depends how we want to go.
Yeah, brother, you can. For today, I think you want me to do 108. I'm okay, or you want
Yes.
just share further
No, we
also.
can take it on next week, brother, because there are about 4 5 slides. It's going to go another maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So let's get you to share with us one of the 100 names, Mahatma.
Sairam, brothers and sisters, uh, the 108 name for today is Om Sri Sai Sarveshaya Namaha. That means salutation to Sri Sai, who is the Lord of all. In one of the discourses, one of the students mentioned while addressing the gathering, Om Sri Sai Devata Swarupaya Namaha. So Swami corrected saying Sarva Devata Swarupaya. Swami said Sarva Devata Tita Swarupaya Namaha. That means beyond all the devatas as well. So all forms, I would say, I think many times we all must have heard or experienced, Swami giving darshan in their Ishtadevatas form. I remember one of my lecturers, he's an American basically. He used to teach us certain art subject, like, the photography. He was teaching us the photography. We used to roam around Puttaparthi, the dry trees and the trees
Yeah.
without leaves, how black and white photography, in fact, at that time. So, how to develop the film and all that. One day, he was sharing his experience. Swami called him into the in a interview room,
Mm.
and in his heart of heart, somewhere he had a thought. Somewhere he forgot nothing. He had right now the desire also. So Swami asked him to look at him. He was sitting in one corner there of the interview room, and Swami was at his in another side. And Swami asked him to just look at me. The moment he looked at Swami, he said the kind of light, and it's a golden yellow color light, and Swami appearing himself is in Lord Ganesha. So, Swami insisted that by coming to him, do not give up your Ishtadevata.
Yeah.
So, in connection with this, there is one more story also. I think when Professor Kasturi Garu had that difficulty to adjust, so Swami, when he came to Swami one day, he said, Swami, I'm going to Tirupati. So Swami said, why are you going to Tirupati? So Swami, what a Tirupati Swami. So because see, I was fortunate enough to hear Kasturi Garu live every Thursday in my
Yes.
grade 11 and 12, coming to our
Okay.
school and talking to us and describing the he describes. He's a great storyteller. So and so when Swami said, "Okay, you go ahead," Swami never said no.
Mm.
So lo and behold, he goes to Tirupati and he would see Swami. He saw Swami there, right?
Uh,
So Swami gives darshan there with the Abhay Hasta. So another miracle was that one of the mother had a problem with his son, because she always had the desire that his son also would accompany her and have darshan of Swami together. But unfortunately, what happens? The lot of fighting, discussion, argument goes on between mother and son. The son ultimately yields. Okay, I will accompany you to Puttaparthi. They start traveling. Mother, I'm not going to Puttaparthi now. I'll go to Tirupati.
mm.
The mother continues her journey, reaches Puttaparthi, and sits in the darshan line.
Mm.
And once she's there, Swami comes straight to her. Swami says, "How are you?" And then Swami creates Vibhuti and puts in her hand and says, okay, you had the desire that your son also would accompany and see me and have my darshan. But
Mm.
Swami complete. He the question, he answers also. That has been his style all through.
Yeah.
He answers also. Where has he gone? He has gone to Tirupati and he's having my darshan. So, Swami, so we have to be very careful when it comes to the form of worship, the form in which we would see Swami. So, we must continue the innermost deity or the Lord in whom we believe. And of course, this, because Swami is our Devatatita Swarupa, we would see our Ishta Devata in Swami as well. So, but in the last few seconds or few minutes before Kasturi Garu was about to, give up the body, Swami
Yeah.
went to his hospital and kept on telling him the last
Yes.
words probably of Swami physical frame to Kasturi Garu was, keep remembering your Ishtadevata very deeply. Keep remembering your Ishtadevata very deeply. So, I mean, there's something that as you are talking about the last minute, in the today's discussion also, that last moment, what is the thought in your mind is very, very important. And that comes only through the full Sharanagati and just,
Yeah, and I don't know if others can pitch in and join on putting it how best they can think to shape this last moments. And last moment is not that we will think 20 years later that last moment. Last moment we can think, okay, now, okay, if it happens. And the best parameter I have found, brother, suppose you are walking and you suddenly triple or you fall down. What is that comes out? What is your exclamation? What is your thought that time?
yeah.
That is an important parameter to tell us with this small pain or small fall we could not remember. So if there's a big fall or a bigger pain where we are deeply affected, how will we remember?
Yeah, brother, I will share my own lifetime experience. I think Swami gave me a lesson there about this last minute thing. In Nairobi, this was 23rd December 2000, to be very precise. I was actually crossing a dual road. I think I shared earlier, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I
No,
was
go
caught
ahead, go
by,
ahead,
yeah,
please.
I was caught by neck. See, in Nairobi, it's quite casual and very regular that people
Yes.
are mugged. So I was caught by neck from behind, and somebody holding my,
Yeah.
neck, and my bone here was
Mm,
completely pressed inside, and what I could see is complete darkness in that split second.
mm, mm,
And then the moment I opened my eyes, and luckily I was saved. I mean, Swami Singh was the only one that is there at my hand. He created in 2000, 1998, 98 July. So, so he created the ring. That was the ring that's there, and the mobile gone, cash gone, everything is gone. And moment I opened my eyes, what I saw first thing on the road, I was holding a polythene bag, and in that Swami's file is there. On top of the file, the picture of Swami, which Samadhi today, was the
mm.
picture on that, and all other papers related to success were all flying there. So I just moment I looked at Swami that picture. I just thought moment that moment, that blank face,
Yeah.
no Saira, nothing was there.
Nothing.
So then I said to myself, I laughed. I just smiled at that moment. I collected all the papers. I was back into my vehicle. So I just thought for a moment, if this is the last minute, where is Sai?
Then I failed. Yeah, yeah.
So still that Sai, long way to go. It was a thought in my mind. So I mean, it's a very, very difficult thing. It's not very easy. That Mahatma Gandhi said, "Hey Ram,
Mm, mm, mm.
it's not easy when the bullets are fired at his chest."
Yeah, yeah.
So that second, that moment is very interesting, and it is not one lifetime practice, but lifetimes practice. We
True.
just
Your being has to be soaked in that,
yes,
for that to come out. And brother Hislop, in that book, my Baba and I also describes about when they are going into the head collision, where his car is trying to overtake when he is in Bangalore to Puttaparthi. He's trying to overtake, thinking that the other guy is very far, and then as they come parallel to the truck, they know this car is already there. At that time, he just thought he's finished. I mean, there was nothing more he could think. And next day, he survived because time and space were altered by Swami. And anyway, so when he goes there and Swami says, "You didn't even remember me, but still I came to save you.
Yeah.
And there's another case where sister Auntie Geeta Mohan Ram, she was talking about this incident where Swami used to say, because ever since her childhood, Swami has been caressing, given her name and all that. So told us Swami, always be careful when you're crossing road and all that. So this was told last week, and next week, she is crossing the road. She is heading for some talk in Bangalore, some college or school. I don't remember that. And as she's crossing, she has a bag. The buses lined up in the sides. In between two buses, there's a gap, right? So anyone can, your mind says you can cross. And as she's crossing, this bus guy starts backing, the one
Oh,
which was
good.
supposed to be static, and she's frozen there. She's frozen there, thinking whether to go forward or come. And by the time it happens friction second, because the gap was only about a feet or a feet and a half. So to cover that feet and a half, it doesn't take much time. And she's at the middle where the driver cannot see because it's not in the lenses zone. But what she says is that point of time, because you see, she has grown up with Swami, looking and doing things. So her whole being was soaked in Swami essence, right? So she said, Swami, Swami, Swami. She could not go further, which she could have done. She froze. Swami, Swami, Swami. And look at this beauty, brother. And at certain moment, she says the bumper came up to her chest, touched. Okay. And then perhaps he saw in the mirror, or somebody told, the driver stopped. Now she goes to home because she cancelled that talk, goes home. And meanwhile, Swami was giving interview to the devotees, and including her mother who was there. So her mother told her this, huh? And in between the interview and talking, suddenly they saw Swami saying, "Stop the bus! Stop the bus! Stop the bus!"
Yeah.
Miles away.
Yes.
Saying, "Stop the bus! Stop the bus!" And it is the same time that a mother did not understand why Swami is saying, and then Swami told in the end of the interview, "I've told Geeta so many times to be careful." And after that, when she comes, her mother says this, and then she goes to Swami, says, "I'm sorry, Swami, I did not follow." Swami says, "You must." And Swami gives a very pertinent remark. One is he came to her aid, like Draupadi shouted, "Krishna, Krishna, Krishna." The sari came in, right? So similarly, I was connecting to that episode very beautifully, because nothing changes, brother. Between Bhakt and Bhagwan, if the devotion aspect is there, surrender is there, whether it was Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, or Kali Yuga, nothing changes. The equation remains the same. And what Swami additionally told was, always listen to what your guru says.
Yeah.
If you consider Sai as a guru, listen to what he says. Even a small instruction to cross must be taken seriously. I think with that, it gives us a message that what Swami says in different messages he has given, we must abide by it. All right. With that, I think if anyone has anything to share, is most welcome. Otherwise, we end with Samasta Loka. Anybody wants to share anything on this? We will continue with some part of it because there were 4-5 slides remaining. All right. Okay, I think sometimes brother, it will be good. I'll decide with you also and Rashi Kumar. Next time we'll try to have more of a little bit of engagement. We can message on certain things, and then we can have one of a common panel discussion kind of thing, which will add a little more flavor to the discussion.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
because you have done a lot of them recently, and I'm sure you will be very good at getting this audios turned into videos.
Yeah, we can.
All right. Okay, let's end with Omkar and Samasta Loka. Om समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः जय बोलिए भगवान श्री सत्य साईं बाबा जी की जय. Sairam, everyone. Have a great, blessed week ahead.
Sai Ram.
And
Yeah,
very
Sai
happy
Ram, thank
birthday,
you.
Pratibha, to Aishwarya for
Yeah,
her
yeah.
birthday today.
Thank you so much.
Sairam.
I know.
Sairam.
Sai Ram. Sai Ram.
Saram, saram.
Sairam.